Okay, so what has happened now is actually that we have a pretty long system. I'm just going to turn the volume a little bit down. Yes, that's better. So what we have here is a pretty long draw function. So our function draw is actually starting to get really kind of overwhelmingly long. And our draw function, of course, goes from the start scope here down to the end here of the scope. And we can actually just make more functions. So a function is basically a macro. It's something that says this group of code belongs together somehow. So one thing could be, we could make a function called draw tree, and then we can copy paste all the tree parts, everything that has to do with the tree. And the question is, when does it start? This is definitely the tree. Should the apples also be the tree? Is that also the tree? I'm actually in doubt here. Okay, so now we have a draw tree here. Oh, I stole the red apple color. I should have that with the apples thing. So now we have a function called draw tree, but as you can see, draw tree is not being drawn anymore. I copied it down here and now it's gone from our little drawing canvas. So I need to call the function to have the tree come back. So now we have the tree again. So basically what it does is to say, okay, it does this, make the grass, draw the grass, and then say, oh, draw tree, and then it jumps down here and runs whatever is inside this scope. It's a little macro, so draw tree will draw this tree. Actually, I think I want to put this in here because it kind of relates to the tree, so we're going to put the apples in here as well. So if we look at this, now we have a tree. When I comment it out, there's no tree. So now we can define, okay, if you want a tree, say call the macro draw tree, which is a function, and then we have a tree. Then the question becomes, what can we do with this? So one thing we actually can do is give it some parameters, and when we give it some parameters, it's actually gonna we can use those parameters. So let's say we want to define where we want to draw the tree. So we want to position it somewhere on this kind of space here. So the way we can do that is actually by writing some coordinates here. So let's say I want to have it 100 in, and then I want it some 200 down. 200 in and 150 down is what we're doing now, so we're going to do that. So now I'm actually giving it some coordinate information of where it should be drawn. But this information is not passed to it because we need to tell the macro that it has variables to pass along. And what we are doing here is we're saying, okay, we have an x and y coordinate, and these two x and y coordinates relates to these two here, so x and y. And then I can start adding these to the different parts. So this one here and this one here now has the x and y parameters. Actually, I want to change this to 100 just to show you so you can see what happens. So, okay, whoa, now it's over here, right? And then we have this one, which should be x plus 15, and this one should be y. So now we are there, and this one here should be, that's interesting because we had 200 here as far as I remember, so this one is minus 40, and now we have the apples in the right place, but we still need to have the y here. Good. So what this does is that because we turn these two parameters in our function, define that, and we now define them here, we can then move the tree around. So if I want the tree to be over here, then the tree is over here. And because it's a macro, and that's why functions are really good, we can now start to actually reproduce it. So we can say, I want more trees. I want one more tree. And that one should be here. And then suddenly we have two trees because it's just calling the same macro over and over again. And we can do that as many times as we want. And we can start, building up like this beautiful foresty thingy bob we're doing here, where there's different trees in different positions. So I want them to be a little bit off from each other, just for beauty's sake, almost. There, good. So I hope you can see how macro functions and can be used, or macros as functions can be used as a way of grouping things together and also giving them some specific parameters that does when I then call this function, I'm doing the exact same thing again, but maybe in another position. Like here, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm drawing the tree the same way, except for the parameters I'm using up here is then affecting how to do it. It can also return a value, so you can use it for like calculating something and then returning a value. The description gives you an example of this.